Hello everybody, I'm Andy Phillips and this is Iron Concepts number 61. So next week will be the Quad State Conference in Troy, Ohio, and Jen and I on Wednesday will be packing up and headed up that way in the big blue truck. So at Quad State there's always a lot of tailgating, and there's always some item, whether it be vices or anvils or piggy anvils, there's always some magical item that seems to get traded around more so than anything. And I always try to guess what that thing is going to be in advance. Also, this time last year on the Iron Concepts, I talked about why buying rust isn't always a good idea, buying old rusty equipment, that is. And here we are a year later, it's really easy to look back and see now with crystal clarity how the market on used tooling was changing. Of course, then it was a lot of speculation, but now there's a lot more evidence to support that the market has definitely changed. The broader cultural eye has turned towards custom knife making in a really big way. And this has overflowed into the trade of blacksmithing. And what this means is that right now there's an outstanding demand on the markets of used and new tooling. And I don't think there's really enough of either to go around, at least from my perspective. And I think this is going to cause a couple of weird things that you're going to see in the coming years. I think you're going to see people unloading really lightly used tooling more early than they would be because the market is there to be able to sell them. Things like power hammers and presses, and I'm talking about bigger tools, treadle hammers, even larger forges. Because in the face of high demand, these lightly used tools will bring a really high price, and it incentivizes people to be able to sell them. On the other hand, on the extremely rusty side, I think that the demand for really cool looking tools, really collectible things, not necessarily to go back into function, but just to serve an aesthetic aspect in a shop, will start coming to bear. You'll start seeing these tools come out of private collections and go up for sale. Some really neat old antiques I think will change hands, and like I said, some of them I think will actually get used, as is always the nature of our trade. But I think some of them as well will just be used to adorn budding blacksmith shops. And why I think this is because the people that are laterally entering into our trade, they don't necessarily have to look as much towards pragmatism as maybe we do, as much as they might look towards their own perceptions of what the trade should be or what they think it should look like. And this is a big bump forward, I think, for our community, because this will change the way that new tools look as well in the coming years. And this is a good thing. And you can kind of think about it like this. Out of all of the shops that you've seen, whether they were a professional or hobby shop, if they were serious about actually producing work, even if it was just on the weekends, chances are that that shop looked like a fab shop or a welding shop or even a garage, not like something that you'd see out of a movie. And I think you're going to see an influx of forging dungeons. Well, maybe not that bad, but think about all of the money that's been poured into all of the man caves across the country, really high-end man caves that were really decorated, that really looked cool, and a lot of them were built around sports cars and that sort of thing, where you're going to see some knife-making shops going into that same sort of aesthetic, and an aesthetic behind it at that. Now, I'm not saying that nobody has built a cool-looking blacksmith shop before or set out to do so and spent a whole lot of money on it. But I think a lot more people are going to set out to do it that way. And this is going to influence what gets bought. And what gets bought influences what gets built and what gets sold. And of course, this is going to change the way that new tools get brought onto the market. And right now there are only a handful of tooling makers for the blacksmithing community that are larger than just a small shop. And most everything that's made commercially for blacksmiths right now is done so through a very tried and true method. The designs aren't that wild, and there's not a whole lot poured into aesthetic over pragmatism. And of course, on my end, this is wishful thinking. I want to see the market shift towards more beautiful tools, towards more makers out there to drive competition so that everybody does better. And this new demand will bring new tooling makers to the forge as well. It brings new players to the field, and the more people that get into tool making, it will bring innovation. And that's just my prediction for the next couple of years. I think that we'll see a bit of this at Quad State. Maybe some new tools, definitely some high-end old rust. Most likely, lots and lots of knife making supplies. So I bet this year one of the big things might be forges, like really small knife making forge style sort of things, ammo can forges. I think you might see a lot of that out there. But I also think another thing this year could be, and this is just sort of a guess, a gut feeling sort of thing. I think swedge blocks might be a big thing this year. A lot of people buying and trading them, a lot of them just sort of coming out of the woodwork, really old, weird ones, because there are people that still make swedge blocks. There are a lot of brand new swedge blocks out there on the market, and they're not necessarily overly priced to buy a new one, but I think a lot of weird ones are going to kind of come out of the woodwork this year, and that's just kind of my guess on that. But one way or the other, I'll be sure to chip in next week and let you know how it all went. As for now, that's it for me this week. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the drawing. I really just wanted to explore some more crisp lines this week, as well as some different textures and shadows. And mainly, I used a slightly different method this week, sort of attacking first with a really rough line drawing that would then get layered over the top of with a more crisp drawing. That way I could work out my proportions first, and then go in and figure out where those lines, the solid lines, really needed to be, and then stick with those the rest of the way through. It may not seem like I make much progress, but I'm always trying to improve and trying different things. But anyway, subscribe to keep up with the new video that I put out each week. Comment if you have any thoughts on the video, and send me an email if you have anything that you want to talk about more in the future. My email is in the description below. And until next week, thanks and bye.